Herbert, he's back. I told you.
Mark Twain once said, religion was invented when the first con men met the first fool. Cults in Fallout have existed since the beginning of the series. People worshipping trees, giant talking rats, and groups that believe their salvation lies off-world. I bet some of you didn't know that Caesar's Legion strictly follows the remnants of a past religion. It gets really weird, and I wanted to explore the worst, or at least the most committed groups in the Fallout series. And trust me, I know a thing or two about these groups. Some might even call me an expert. I've lived in Utah my entire life. Also, if you could like and sub, I'd appreciate it. Please drink my Kool-Aid and enjoy. The Tree Minders are a small, reclusive cult living in Oasis, which is a lush patch of greenery hidden in the capital wasteland. They're centered around the worship of Harold, who's a mutant infected with the FEV. He has a massive tree named Bob growing out of his body. Quick fun fact that probably everyone knows at this point, Harold's actually been around in Fallout for a long time. He was a ghoul you could meet in Fallout 2. Anyways, over the years, the tree completely overtook him, rooting Harold in place and turning the surrounding area into a rare pocket of life. It feels super different than anything else you'll find in the capital wasteland. It's pretty crazy to see for the first time. This transformation drew attention from curious people, but one in particular, Tree Father Birch. He saw it as something sacred. He formed the Tree Minders to protect Harold, calling him the Great One and seeing him as sort of a divine being, whose growth needed to be shielded from the corrupt world outside. As time passed, Oasis attracted more people who had either heard about it or stumbled on it while wandering. Some even claimed they were drawn by Harold's presence. The Tree Minders eventually became a small community devoted to guarding Harold and making sure no outsiders could use him for their own gain. But even though trees and grass grow here, the area's water is still irradiated, which Birch believes is a reminder of their past lives in the world that they came from. Later on, a divide had formed within the group. Tree Father Birch wanted to keep Harold's influence contained, afraid that if it spread beyond Oasis, it would be destroyed. He came up with a plan to apply a sap to Harold's heart to limit further growth. On the other hand, Leaf Mother Laurel believed Harold's growth was a gift meant for the entire wasteland. She wanted to use a special liniment to speed up his expansion, hoping it would bring life back to the rest of the world. The only one who wanted to stop all of this was Harold himself. For decades, he's been stuck in one place, bored out of his mind, unable to do anything but think. The Tree Minders see his pleas for help as mystical riddles, and they ignore his actual requests to end his life. He even had them do things like sing or stand on their heads for fun, but that eventually wore off. Then, Harold sensed the arrival of the Lone Wanderer and allowed them into Oasis, hoping someone neutral would finally hear him out. He blocked access to his heart with his roots until the Wanderer agreed to speak with him. What happens after depended entirely on your choice. You could stop his growth, speed it up, or just end his suffering. Becoming a Tree Minder isn't something that happens overnight. Only a small number of people are ever allowed to join, and outsiders are almost always turned away from Oasis, unless Harold personally decides to let someone in, like the Lone Wanderer. Earning the title of Tree Minder takes years of commitment to their beliefs, rituals, and way of life. Out of respect, they refuse to speak Harold's name directly, calling him the one who grows, the one who gives, and the one who guides. They struggle to actually listen to what Harold wants though, as we know. Joining the group involves a simple initiation ritual. The new member drinks a special sap meant to cleanse the body and mind of anything that could harm Harold. The sap causes sensory distortions, and Tree Minders gather around the central pavilion to chant a long prayer, asking for destructive spirits to leave the body and fade from existence in the name of Harold's divine presence. It's meant to protect both the new initiate and the god tree from negative influences. As a group, the Tree Minders have mostly abandoned technology, believing it caused the ruin of the world. They rely on nature as much as possible, seeing it as a way to stay in harmony with Harold, but they still recognize that the wasteland is dangerous. So they're willing to use guns and other gear when absolutely necessary, but only as a last resort. Their hierarchy is pretty simple. Tree Father and Leaf Mother share leadership and are responsible for upholding Harold's teachings. Below them are the Branch Tenders who guard Oasis, Bloom Seers who act as healers and spiritual guides, and Saplings who are still in training. Leadership is meant to be balanced, which is why the current disagreement between Birch and Laurel has caused such a rift. Both technically have equal authority. I'm sure nothing could go wrong with that system. In my opinion, these people aren't so bad. Ignoring Harold is probably their worst flaw. Dude doesn't want to be stuck as a tree forever, of course. But the rest of their beliefs are fairly simple and harmless in my opinion. Safeguarding nature is admirable, but also gatekeeping it isn't great either. The Harold dilemma is pretty interesting though, one of the few choices in Fallout 3 where you might actually have to think for a moment. What did you guys do with him? I think a lot of people might overlook the sorrows when talking about these types of groups, but I definitely think they needed to be here. In case you haven't played the New Vegas DLC Honest Hearts, the Sorrows are a pacifist tribe that lives in Zion Canyon, Utah. They arrived there in 2123. 24 children, none older than about 14, found shelter in the canyon after escaping a place they called the School. They spoke a broken mix of English, and they scared one another with stories about a figure known only as the Principal. We've talked a bit about this guy on the channel before, some creepy stuff. Less than a year after they settled in the Narrows, gifts began turning up in their camp. At first, they had things like storybooks, later medical guides, and weapon manuals better suited to survival. Each bundle came with a note signed "The Father," urging the children to read and stay kind and defend one another, and treat Zion as a place meant to balance all the sorrows humanity had caused. The mysterious benefactor was Randall Dean Clark, a retired US soldier who had lived alone in Zion since the war. Clark stayed out of sight because he feared the children would feel let down if their guardian spirit turned out to be an injured old man. As his health failed, he left a final set of letters, one for each child, then left completely, promising to keep watch from a distance. Over the next 157 years, the story of the father shaped every part of the Sorrows culture. Inspired by his apology, they chose Sorrows as their tribal name and searched the canyon's caves for signs of him. When a tribe member died in a trap Clark had set decades earlier, the Sorrows took it as a punishment for prying into sacred ground. From that point on, they banned entry to any cave or pre-war structure, a rule that remains a core taboo of their faith. The Sorrows are deeply connected to nature, and their way of life reflects that. They aren't an aggressive tribe, but not fully pacifist either. Their coming-of-age ritual involves hunting and killing a Yao Guai, then crafting its paw into a tribe signature Yao Guai gauntlet. It's a dangerous trial meant to show strength and survival. And even though they can fight well, the Sorrows are known for their compassion. They mourn every loss, even the deaths of their enemies like the Whitelegs. Around their camp, geckos wander freely, meaning the Sorrows might have learned to tame or coexist with them. Every member of the tribe wears a tattoo of the Virgin River, symbolizing their connection to Zion. That river and nature as a whole is essential to how they see themselves. A well-known legend in their culture is the ghost of She. According to the story, a young girl from the tribe once wandered into a cave where a Yao Guai was sleeping. She died before receiving her name, so her spirit was believed to remain trapped, restless and always wandering. Hunters tried to kill the beast that took her, but none succeeded. Eventually, the tribe's shaman said the girl and the Yao Guai had become one, her spirit now fused with the creature, forever haunting the land. The caves where the father once lived are sacred, and stepping into them is considered a serious taboo, as we know. The Sorrows believe those who enter are taken from the world. To prevent intrusions, they mark cave entrances with white handprints as a warning. Lately, the Sorrows have come into contact with the New Canaanites. A missionary named Daniel has been trying to convert them to Mormonism for about 6 years. Some have responded to his teachings, mostly because of similarities between their beliefs and his. But Daniel hasn't fully understood why his message hasn't taken hold the way he hoped. The Sorrows continue to follow their old ways while slowly absorbing some of the new. This one will be quick, but I have no doubt you've run into this little group before. The pillars of the community present themselves as a fast-growing movement in the Commonwealth. Their missionaries hand out flyers to nearby settlements, inviting anyone who wants a better life to visit the Charlesview Amphitheater and to learn the truth about the world's troubles. At the center of it all is Brother Thomas, who greets every newcomer, travels to settlements to recruit, and urges fresh converts to surrender their worldly possessions as the first step towards salvation. Classic. But really, the pillars are a straight-up scam. Thomas and his followers lure people to the amphitheater and then threaten to kill anyone who refuses to hand over their belongings. Locals are sick of the racket. Ham even kicked Thomas out of the third rail in Good Neighbor for pestering patrons. The cult schemes reached new heights when Thomas kidnapped Imogene Cabot after she argued with him about joining. Thanks to the strange serum she uses, it took the entire cult to restrain her and lock her up. And as you know, the Cabot family eventually hires the sole survivor to track her down and bring her home. Like most cults in the real world, this one pretty much follows the handbook word for word. These guys use the religion to lure in desperate people and then take advantage of them. Too bad they end up running into the crazed psycho user known as the sole survivor later on. Hubbology was founded before the Great War by a man named Dick Hubble. Fed up with the state of the government, religion, and medicine, he drew his inspiration from the music of the time and his own supposed encounters with extraterrestrials. His goal was to guide humanity through something he called the Great Wheel of Life. To his followers, Hubble became known as the Hub, chosen by the Starfather to lead them to a place called Quetzal. He also claimed to have invented a device called the Zeta Ray Emitter, which supposedly removed neurodynes from the brain and helped unlock a person's true potential. Critics in the media and scientific community dismissed Hubbology as pseudoscience and called it dangerous. The group was forced underground for a while, but they fought back by infiltrating organizations that were against them. and creating television programs aimed at exposing what they saw as government lies. After surviving the Great War, what they call the Great Deluge, Hubbologists took it as confirmation that the Great Wheel was real, and that Hubble's teachings were correct. Today, everything Hubble wrote is treated as sacred, whether it's a sci-fi novel or even something crazy like his grocery list. According to Hubbology, the universe once existed in perfect harmony. Body, mind, and spirit were unified in all living things, and the level of technology was beyond anything imaginable. This golden age ended with the rise of Thrakazog, the pothole, a person who introduced the idea that mind and body were separate from the spirit. Are you guys keeping up with this? Hello, wake up. Okay, I'll spare you from hearing about the absolute deepest lore in this religion. Hubbology teaches that all life moves along the Great Wheel of Life. At the center of the wheel is Dick Hubble, aka the Hub, and not that hub, guys. This is the Dick Hub. Get it together. With his followers on the spokes and everyone else pushed to the rim, people who reject the Hub's teachings are called the rim meat, because they're seen as obstacles the wheel grinds over without understanding how it works. Aliens are also a major part of the belief system. In fact, the Hubbologists in San Francisco were trying to fix a pre-war space shuttle so that they can leave Earth and join the Starfather on a planet. Their end goal is to erase all mental restraints, gain godlike awareness, return to Earth, eliminate neurodynes, and guide humanity to its full potential under their leadership. A key part of Hubbologist belief centers around these neurodynes, which are the body's psychic nodes, similar to chakras. According to Hubbology, these are contaminated at birth by spiritual debris from those killed in the Great War. These leftover psi energies trap people in a state of spiritual weakness. To fix this, Hubbologists use a process called alignment, where a controlled dose of zeta radiation is aimed at the brain to burn away these negative imprints. People who haven't been cleansed are seen as toxic influences and should be avoided. Do you know how you get cleansed? You pay for it. Alignment is done at Hubbology centers, and members progress through ranks as Aligned Hub Seekers, or AHS, gaining more spiritual power with each level. I know this gets confusing, try to just follow along, it is crazy. The final goal is the uplifting, when the Starfather calls all worthy Hubbologists to Quetzal. Anyone who's shown genuine commitment to the Hub's teachings, regardless of their AHS rank, is promised a place among their alien brothers and a spot closer to the center of the Great Wheel. Members earn a numerical rank based on their level of dedication and progress. The leader of the group holds the title of AHS 9, the highest rank among living members. The second in command is usually selected from the top tiers, often someone ranked AHS 7 or higher who has access to the cult's most guarded teachings. Security and guards are usually ranked at AHS 4s. As a follower continues to rise in knowledge and spiritual connection, they can eventually move beyond AHS 9 and become enlightened, fully integrated into the Great Wheel. Some of the enlightened are believed to leave the physical world behind entirely, while others stay behind to help guide others towards the same level of understanding. According to Hubbology, anyone who claims to be enlightened on their own is by definition not. True enlightenment comes without self-declaration. The Hubbologists really remind me of a specific group in real life.
Stop wasting my time, Smoothskin. Go waste Jason's.
The Bright Brotherhood is a cult made up of mostly ghouls, along with one human who fully believes he is a ghoul. They're led by Jason Bright, a glowing one who's managed to avoid going feral. He claims to receive visions from the Creator and has built a small community preparing for their great journey, which is a rocket-powered trip to the far beyond. A radioactive promised land he believes is waiting for them. It's pretty similar to the Hubbologists. The Brotherhood has been around since before 2279. Though when or where it started isn't really clear. Their goal is to escape the dangers of the wasteland and the prejudice they face from humans. Most of their beliefs come directly from Bright's visions, which he treats as divine instruction. While he's open to people questioning his mission, he doesn't try to convert skeptics, including the Courier or Harland. Chris Haversam is a human who showed up at the Repcon test site around 2279, thinking that he was a ghoul. Despite everyone telling him otherwise, he refused to believe he was still human. He became the Brotherhood's only non-ghoul member, but he's not allowed to join the Great Journey, which Bright said is the Creator's will. Still, Bright believed Chris and the Courier were sent by the Creator to help the ghouls as a form of redemption for humanity's cruelty. For his efforts, Chris was honored as a saint within the group. The Brotherhood's plan to reach the far beyond involves restoring Repcon's rockets and launching into space. They were close to making it work when a group of Nightkins stormed the building looking for a shipment of Stealth Boys. These Stealth Boys had actually been rerouted before the war. Using stealth tech, the Nightkin caught the ghouls off guard. Many of the Brotherhood took refuge on the upper floors, believing that they were under attack by demons. Davison, the super mutant leader, took over the intercom and warned them to stay out of the basement while the Nightkin continued their search. Even with the rockets mostly functional, the Brotherhood still needed working thrusters and proper fuel. If the courier clears out the Nightkin, the ghouls can move forward with their launch plans, and they gather at their sacred site in the Repcon basement to prepare for the Great Journey. Then they go. You can also help Chris sabotage the mission, which makes the rockets go off course and explode, or you help it go smoothly, which it doesn't really go smoothly in that case either. Even though they're a non-violent religious group, the Bright Brotherhood is heavily armed. Most of its members carry energy weapons, including plasma defenders, laser RCWs, and recharger rifles. The Brotherhood mostly keeps to itself, because they shelter feral ghouls and face constant discrimination. They're generally not welcome in human settlements, where ferals are often attacked on sight, which of course they would be. You can even find some Bright followers dead across the Mojave, but their deaths aren't really clear. At the end of New Vegas, there's a slide that says some of the members of the Brotherhood eventually return from their great journey and help Novak rebuild its defenses after the Second Battle of the Hoover Dam. But we don't know where or what that journey ended up being. The Renewal cult is based in Gecko. Their symbol is the Ankh, and members wear Ankh-shaped talismans as part of their belief system. Renewal was founded by a mole rat that gained intelligence after being exposed to FEV. It took the name The Brain and started working towards its goal of world domination. And yes, this probably is a reference to Pinky and the Brain. Brain aimed to form an alliance